All right, guys, welcome back to another Master and Apprentice video and podcast. It's going to be me today, and after this, still out. So we just had the new Tales of the Empire drop, and part of the big theming of it seems to be Inquisitors. Inquisitors are a part of Star Wars that kind of was introduced in 2014 with the Rebel series. That's always just been a very mysterious but a cool addition part of Star Wars. And I think a lot of people still have questions about how the Inquisitors work and who are the Inquisitors, right? So today's video and podcast, we're going to go over just kind of a list of all the Inquisitors and a little bit about each one. Not necessarily a character breakdown, but just kind of like give you a rundown because we don't even know all the characters or their names or any of that necessarily. So we're going to give you what we do know, that just general information really. Some things to keep in mind are they're not Sith. I think some people are confused because when they see a red lightsaber, they just automatically assume they're Sith, and that's necessarily not an unfair assumption. But this is one of the parts of Star Wars that I think confuse people: is Inquisitors aren't Sith. They do have red lightsabers, and most of them were former Jedi or Jedi Padawans, so they are familiar with the Force and lightsabers, but they don't apply to the rule of two or Inquisitors. And I know that might confuse some fans at first glance when they see the Inquisitors and the red lightsabers and the Force. They're not part of that. They're their own separate thing. Inquisitors are a special organization put together by the Emperor, with the Darth Vader, Lord Vader, at the helm of the project, just specifically sought after to track down and hunt and kill Jedi, or get him to switch to become an Inquisitor as well. Kind of a common thing we'll see with all these Inquisitors is they had some sort of affiliation with the Jedi Order before they became an Inquisitor, whether they were a Jedi Padawan, a Jedi Knight, Jedi Master, or even a Jedi Temple Guard. They all have some sort of affiliation. So you'll keep that in mind. The other thing is there's a leader. The Grand Inquisitor is in charge of the other Inquisitors. Then there's Darth Vader. He's in charge of the project and the whole, right? So it's like Vader's in charge of the project. Next beneath him is Grand Inquisitor, and he's in charge of each individual. So there's kind of a power scheme to it. Some people will kind of get confused who is actually in charge. Vader is most in charge, but he's obviously doing lots of other things in the Empire. So the Grand Inquisitor is next in line. So with that, we'll get right into the list. The first off we have is the Grand Inquisitor. It was first seen in the 2014 series Rebels. Then we saw it again in the 2017 novel Ahsoka, and then returning again in 2022, the Kenobi TV series. That was its last on-screen appearance. And then also most recently, we saw him again in the 2023 novel Inquisitor: Rise of the Red Blade, and multiple comic runs pretty much since 2017 in the Vader comics and a couple other comics. He's made an appearance as well. He died in 4 BBY to Kanan Jarrus. We see this in the Rebel series, season 1. I think it was the finale, if I'm not mistaken. A couple little things about his background is he's a Padawan. If you guys don't remember, on Utapau in episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, we see Kenobi visit Utapau to track down General Grievous. That planet is actually the homeworld of the Padawans, and that is what the Grand Inquisitor is from. That's his species. That's his homeworld. Another thing is he was a former Jedi Temple Guard. He served as a Jedi Temple Guard. A popular theory is he was one of the Temple Guards that escorted Barriss Offee during her trials, as we see in the Clone Wars, and that's why he's familiar with her, as we see in the Tales of the Empire trailer. Next up we have is the second sister. This is also known as Trilla Siduri. We first see her in the 2019 video game Jedi Fallen Order, and then we see her in the 2019 comic run Jedi Fallen Dark Temple. We see her also in the 2023 novel Jedi Battle Scars. And then also she does make an appearance in the 2023 novel Inquisitor: Rise of the Red Blade. She died in 14 BBY at the hands of Darth Vader when he sensed her fear and her had thoughts of possibly turning back to the light side. And Vader instantly felt that and killed her. And we see this in the Jedi Fallen Order game. He does it right in front of Cal Kestis and Seer Junda. A little bit of background: she's just a normal human. She's a former Jedi Padawan of Seer Junda. She was captured after her location was given up by Seer. Seer was captured. She was tortured, and then Trilla was then captured. She was tortured until she just submitted to becoming an Inquisitor, filling her with lots of hate for Jedi because of her master betraying her in her eyes. Next up we have is the third brother. I couldn't find any information for the life of me. Not a name, not even a species, just that there is a third brother. It was in the Star Wars encyclopedia. The name was brought up. It's not mentioned anywhere else. I looked as extensively as I could. I could be wrong. Let me know in the comics if there's more about this character. But we know there is a third brother. That's all we really know about that. The next character we have is the third sister, also known as Reva Savander. She's a popular character or unpopular character, depending on how you see her, from the 2022 Kenobi series on Disney Plus. She was also in the 2023 Kenobi comic run. There's no death of her recorded. At the end of Kenobi, we see her kind of depart from the Inquisitors and just walk away. So we don't know what her tale is, right? She could be alive for all we know by the time Rise of the Skywalker comes around. She was a former Jedi initiate during the Order 66. She was at the Jedi Temple, and she watched her fellow Jedi initiates, other Jedi younglings, be slaughtered in front of her by Anakin Skywalker, at the time Lord Vader. Because of this, she was filled with hate for Anakin and Kenobi specifically, that she sought after to destroy them, why she became an Inquisitor. She was able to locate Kenobi. After she does battle Kenobi, she's defeated by Kenobi. She does abandon the Inquisitors, kind of like I mentioned. So she's one of the few Inquisitors who kind of walk away from the Inquisitorius alive, right? All the Inquisitors, we usually see them die at some point. As far as we know, she could be the only Inquisitor still alive. So that's a pretty big thing, kind of, out of all the Inquisitors that stands out. Next up, we have the fourth sister. She was first seen in the 2019 Vader's Castle comic run. She made her appearance on screen for the first time in the 2022 Kenobi series. We see her again in the 2023 novel Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade. And we also see her as, it looks like, a big role in the 2024 upcoming Tales of the Empire. At least from the trailer, it looks like she's going to have a pretty big role throughout it. Her fate is unknown, but we do know in a comic series, the Rebel Alliance does get a hold of her armor, as we see Commander Alina Graf impersonating the Inquisitor in that 2019's Vader Castle run. So it's possible she died at some point, but it's really not confirmed. At some point, someone got a hold of her armor and her gear by the Rebel Alliance. So it's very possible she met her demise at some point. We also don't really have anything else besides that. We just know we're going to see her a lot more for in the upcoming Tales of the Empire series. She's a humanoid. We don't know what species. I think possibly Twi'lek, but it's not confirmed. I couldn't really find confirmation on her species. And she is a former Jedi Padawan, but more information on that was also mysterious. Next up, we have the fifth brother. He was first seen in the 2014 Rebels TV series. He's one of the first Inquisitors alongside the Grand Inquisitor to come to fruition, part of that Rebels series when they brought all the Inquisitors into actual Star Wars canon. He was also in the 2017 Darth Vader comic run. We see him reintroduced back onto the screen in the 2022 Kenobi TV series, and he's also in the 2023 novel Jedi Battle Scars. And then also, as well as the novel Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade that came out in 2023 as well. He was slain in 3BBY by the hands of Maul during the duel on Malachor, right? We see, I think, pretty much all the Inquisitors that were left at that time were all slain by either Maul or just during that duel in general, right? And the fifth brother was one of those. He's from the planet Artemisium. I don't know what the species is. Artemisium maybe. I couldn't find the actual species name. That's just the planet he's from. He joined the Jedi at a young age, but he had a lot of disagreements on the Jedi Order's code and how they were put into the Clone Wars. So right from the get-go, he just disagreed with the Jedi and their tactics. So when the Inquisitors came around, he joined willingly to hunt down the rest of the Jedi. While training with Vader, most of the Inquisitors did train with Vader at one point or another. He did lose his right hand in a duel. I don't know if that's necessarily obvious to some people, but he does have a robotic hand. It's an interesting fact, I think. And then one of the obvious things, he's probably one of the more experienced Inquisitors, just because he was there pretty much right from the get-go. He joined willingly. He didn't have to get tortured or anything like that. He joined right from the get-go, and he was there waiting until 3BBY. He was one of the last Inquisitors to stand. Next up, we have the sixth brother. It's a little bit of a confusing character, and we'll talk a little bit at the end with another character and just some confusion in the canon and lore with this, but we're going to treat it as its own separate character. We see him first in the 2016 novel Ahsoka, and then we see him again reoccurring in the 2017 Darth Vader comic run, and lastly we see him again in the 2023 novel Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade. He died at the hands of Ahsoka in 18 BBY in the Ahsoka novel. That's the Inquisitor that Ahsoka duels and blows up a lightsaber in his hands to kill him, and then she uses his lightsabers to create her new white lightsabers that we see in the Rebel series. He's a humanoid man, originally part of the Jedi Order. Not much really known about this character because we've just never seen him on screen. We only have him in novels and comics, right? So still kind of a mysterious Inquisitor. It's said that Darth Vader did cut off his left arm while in a training duel, so very similar to the fifth brother. Next up we have is the seventh sister. She was first seen in 2014 in the Rebels series. She was one of the other Inquisitors that was first introduced with the first wave of Inquisitors. She was also seen in the 2017 Darth Vader comic run. And then also lastly, she was in the 2023 novel Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade. She was slain in 3BBY alongside the fifth brother at the hands of Maul on the duel on Malachor. Some background information on the character. Her species is called a Miralan. I'm not too familiar with that, but if you guys are looking at the screen, there's a picture of her right there. It was said that she was trained by Grandmaster Yoda and Master Aayla Secura during the Clone Wars, so she does have a lot of experience as a former Jedi. She did have a brief rivalry with the 13th sister. Her name is Iskra Akarius. We see this in that Rise of the Red Blade novel. She had a personal ID9 seeker droid to help track down her prey, as she called it, just Jedi or Force sensitive. After the death of the Grand Inquisitor, the seventh sister was pretty much trying to replace the Grand Inquisitor, right? She wanted to be the new leader of the Inquisitors, take that helm of the Grand Inquisitor. But again, at the end, she was defeated by Maul, kind of being one of the last Inquisitors to be alive, right? After the fifth brother, seventh sister, and we'll get to the eighth brother, they were the last three Inquisitors before the Inquisitor program was pretty much shut down, right? 4BBY is only 3BBY is only 3 years before the Battle of Yavin. At that time, we didn't hear or see anything about the Inquisitors again. So they kind of died off with the seventh sister. And that's why we don't really see them again later. Next up, we have the eighth brother. He was first seen in the 2014 Rebel series. Again, kind of brought on with that first initial wave of Inquisitors. He also made an appearance in the 2017 Darth Vader comic run. And then, just like almost all these other Inquisitors, he made an appearance in the novel Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade. He fell to his death during the duel on Malachor in 3BBY. Again, kind of being one of those last Inquisitors standing. He was a Terrellian Django jumper, a pretty rare species. This is the only occurrence of this species I could find in Star Wars lore, so it's pretty cool. He had a special task during the events in the Rebel series, and that was to track down the former Sith Maul. We don't really see the Inquisitors used to do a lot of things besides track down Jedi and Force sensitive. This was kind of the first time we see them track down a Sith or a former Sith. And so the eighth brother kind of stands out in that way. Next up, we have the ninth sister, also known as Masana Tide. I like to call her the Shrek lady because I think if you've played any of the Jedi games, you know who I'm referring to. She was first seen in the 2017 Darth Vader comic run, but she made her first on-screen appearance in the 2019 Jedi Fallen Order game. as well as the 2023 Jedi Survivor video game. She also had an appearance in the 2023 novel Jedi Battle Scars, and then as well as any of the other Inquisitors on this list, she was also in the Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade novel. She died at the hands of Cal Kestis in a duel in 9 BBY. We see this in the Jedi Survivor video game. Obviously, it's one of the first parts of the game. She was a female Dewatan. We don't see a lot of these in Star Wars canon, so she's a cool character in that way. She was a former Jedi Knight, and just like a couple of these other Inquisitors, she dueled with Darth Vader and had her left eye defeated, destroyed. So if you actually look at her left eye is cybernetic. It's kind of a little thing that if you look for it, you'll actually see it in the video games. It's pretty cool. She also had her left leg taken after the Purge Troopers betrayed the Inquisitors in the 2017 Vader comic run. It's a special comic where the Jedi tricked the Purge Troopers in pretty much executing Order 66 on the Inquisitors because they're force sensitive. And, well, she lost her left leg due to that. Then we have the 10th brother, also known as Prosit Dibs, seen in the 2017 comic run Jedi of the Republic, Mace Windu, and then also 2017 comic run Darth Vader, and then lastly the 2023 novel Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade. He died after the Purge Troopers had been tricked into betraying the Inquisitors on a mission in 18 BBY, as I just kind of mentioned a second ago. He was a force-sensitive Mariliku, who was a Jedi Master in the early days of the Clone Wars, up until he betrayed Mace Windu after not seeing eye to eye in the Jedi's placement in the Clone Wars. And so he attempted to kill Mace Windu. Obviously, he wasn't able to, was defeated, and he was apprehended and put into custody. Mace Windu had some grace for him, and he was put into pretty much a parole position where he just stayed in the Jedi archives trying to make amends with the Jedi Order. Obviously, that didn't happen because by the time the Jedi Order had fell, he was still at the Jedi archives, still on parole, as you could say. And because of his anger and his hatred for the Jedi Order and their placement in the Clone Wars, it fed into him becoming a Inquisitor. He made that choice early on during the transition into the Empire. He's a pretty cool species. He's what they call, like I said, a Moraliku. The reason I think they're very cool is they're pretty much identical to a human, except they're born without eyes. So, I mean, this guy was kind of like Kanan in the fact that he just had to use the Force and use the Force to have senses, essentially, because he couldn't see. Ironically enough, he wasn't able to sense the Purge Troopers' betrayal right before it happened. Kind of similar to the Jedi in Order 66. He just wasn't expecting. He got taken by surprise, and he was taken out by those Purge Troopers. Next up, we have the 13th sister, known as Iskarat Akaris. She was first seen in the 2017 Darth Vader comic run, and then later on in the 2023 novel Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade. She was killed by Vader in that novel because she chose love with another Inquisitor known as Tulan Yulana, rather than staying an Inquisitor, right? And Vader took that as an act of treachery in 14 BBY. A little bit of her background information is her species kind of similar to the Chiss in the way that it's very mysterious. Even the Jedi Order weren't fully aware of where she came from or who her species was. She was actually present for the Battle of Geonosis. She was a Jedi Padawan at that time, so she has a lot of experience during the Clone Wars and got a lot of combat training. During the Order 66, she had the option by Palpatine to either betray her fellow Jedi and join the Inquisitors or be killed by the clones. Obviously, wanting to survive, she betrayed the other Jedi, one of them being Tulan Yulana, who became Inquisitor later on, and we'll get to him later. After she became an Inquisitor, she went on a couple of missions, but like I said, she died 14 BBY, so early on, after some time, she betrayed the Jedi. That Jedi she betrayed, Tulan Yulanu, they did become romantically involved. They became friends, they made amends, and at some point they became romantically involved together as Inquisitors, which later Vader saw as an act of treachery. I personally think it's because, him and Padme, it reminded him too much of Anakin, and he hated it. And so it led to both of their demises in the end, both the 13th sister and Toulon. Next up, we have Toulon Yulanu. I don't know why, but I could not find like a brotherhood name, like 15th brother or anything like that. I did my darndest to find it. If you guys know if he has like a number association like the rest of the Inquisitors, but I really couldn't find it. So it's just Toulon Yulana. He was seen in the 2017 Darth Vader comic run. That's where he made his first appearance, and then also reappeared in the 2023 novel Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade. He was killed by Vader again after he chose love with another Inquisitor, Iskra Akaris, the 13th sister we just talked about. A little bit about this Inquisitor. He was a male Twi'lek. He actually had black skin, which I thought was very cool. I'd never seen that on another Twi'lek before. Just like Iskrat, he was actually present for the Battle of Geonosis, serving as a Jedi Padawan for the Jedi Order at that time. So similar to Iskrat, he has a lot of experience in the Clone Wars and just in the physical combat area. So he was very skilled with the lightsaber. After being captured by the clones and tortured for a little while, he grew a lot of hate for Iskrat, fueling him to become an Inquisitor. After they kind of got over it and he attempted to kill her a couple of times, they became romantically involved, like I mentioned with the 13th sister, which Vader took as an act of treachery, like I explained, and he killed them both for it, essentially, leading to both of their demise early on in the Empire reign. Next up we have is Marak. We see him in the 2023 Ahsoka TV series. This is the first time we've ever seen him. But then we do see him again in the 2024 upcoming Tales of the Empire trailer. So we know he's coming back. We know he's an Inquisitor. So hopefully we should be getting more information on this character. But with that being said, we don't really know anything about this character. All we know is that Ahsoka defeated him in ABY in the Forest of the Nab. And when Ahsoka defeated him, he kind of turned like this green dust or mist, leading me to kind of believe he had some Night Sister magic involved with him. Maybe he'd already died before he was resurrected somehow. I don't necessarily know, but there's really nothing else on this character. He's a very new character, as he was kind of introduced just at the end of 2023 in that Ahsoka series, and that's it. That's all we have. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see what new developments come for this character in the Tales of the Empire series. And then lastly, we have an unknown Inquisitor. I think it's possibly the sixth brother. It's a little bit of confusion. We see him in the 2022 TV series Tales of the Jedi, and then we see him reappear in the Tales of the Empire trailer that's supposed to be coming out in 2024. He's kind of got like one of those Plague Doctor masks, it looks like almost. After Ahsoka defeated him, we see him kind of just evaporate, kind of similar to Morak, but we don't know anything else about this character. Only reason we say it could be possibly the sixth brother is because the premise of the Tales of the Jedi is very, very similar to the premise of the Ahsoka novel. And we know in the Ahsoka novel, she's on a moon where she defeats an Inquisitor without using a lightsaber. And it seems very similar to how this unknown Inquisitor met his fate in the Tales of the Jedi series. But we know we see him in the Tales of the Empire again, so hopefully some more information on this character, whether we get some confirmation that this is the sixth brother or this is just a completely different Inquisitor, we'll get to see. So again, pretty exciting stuff to come up with this Tales of the Empire for all kinds of these Inquisitors. Barriss Offee is going to be an Inquisitor, so that's a new Inquisitor we know we can see, but we don't really know where to affiliate. All we know is what we've seen in the Clone Wars and the trailer for the Tales of the Empire. So very interesting stuff. There you guys have it. That's really it. The list of the in-universe canon Inquisitors. There's not a lot of information regarding all of these characters, mostly due to the fact they're just really a new thing. I mean, 2014 is 10 years, but I mean, they're not in every media for Star Wars. There are very few things, to be honest. So it's a very cool and mysterious part of Star Wars that they've always been expanding on recently, and I'm all for it. I enjoy it. It's a different part of Star Wars with red lightsabers and the Force that it's just outside of the typical Jedi and Sith duo that we have. So let us know what you guys think down in the comments. Let me know if there's anything I'm missing. Just, I did my best to research as much as I could, just on like a broad general sense, but maybe there's an Inquisitor I'm missing or a name I'm missing. Let me know down in the comments. Let me know what you guys think about the Inquisitors. Are you guys excited about the Tales of the Empire series? I'm super excited about it. It's going to bring a lot of new interesting information into canon for us. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like. If you guys are listening on podcast, don't forget to hit that download and follow. With that, we hope you guys did enjoy this, and we will see you guys in the next video. Peace.